Homework answers to the worksheet called Triangle Congruencies 2. Yes, there were more than 15 questions. I have another slide of answers. Next page of answers. Lots of pigs and cows, right? Okay, so we're changing number 10 had a typo. This should be a G. Thank you for catching that, for doing your homework. And number 7. Okay, number 4. Let's zoom in a little bit. Number 4, what are you allowed to add to your picture? On number 4, you're allowed to add arcs because we have vertical angles. Very good. So we're going to add our arcs. And we've got angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. 2 angles in a side, where the side is between the angles. The tick mark is between the arcs. So ABC is congruent to triangle EDC because A has no arcs. So you have to start with the one that has no arcs. Number 7. Number 7 is one of those with parallel lines. And so you have to know what to do when you have parallel lines. Here's a mistake that students make. Parallel lines are not the same as congruent markings. AC is not necessarily congruent to BD. Those are not congruent markings. They're parallel lines. So when we have parallel lines, we've got, in this picture, we've got alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles. And then we have a shared side. Shared side. You're always allowed to put tick marks on a shared side. And so now we've got angle, angle, side. See how we have 2 angles in a side? So it's angle, angle, side. A, B, C. So I did the right angle and then no markings. So I'm going to do triangle. I'm going to name the right angle and then the one with no markings and then the last one. Did I answer your number 7 okay, Rishi? Why not angle, side, angle? Are the tick marks between the arcs? Are the tick marks between the arcs? If the side is not between the angles, then don't put the letter S between the letter A's. Do you know what I mean? The side is not between the angles, so I'm not going to put S between the A's. Okay. 13 is our next problem. It's a good one. It's got more parallel lines. This time we're not going to use alternate interior angles. This time we're going to use corresponding angles. So if I've got, these are my parallel lines, and this is my transversal, I've got a pair of corresponding angles. Over here, parallel lines and transversal, I've got another pair of corresponding angles. I've got an angle, a side, and an angle. Angle, side, angle. A, B, C, C, D, E. So for a while you're practicing this, where you see arcs, you can put the letter A, and where you see tick marks, you can put the letter S. So you at least know what letters you're dealing with. This time the tick mark is between the arcs. It is between, it is included, so you do put the S between the A's. So what I want to get across is that arrows mean you're going to have angles. Arrows do not mean you're going to have sides congruent. Arrows mean, parallel lines mean some sort of angles are going to be congruent. Next one is 15. More parallel lines. So we're going to extend, extend, extend. I've got alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles. Now I'm going to use my other pair. Extend, extend, extend. With the red lines, these are my alternate interior angles. Then we've got our famous shared side. Shared side. So this one is angle, side, angle. A, B, C. C, D, A. That's a D, not a P. No, Karthik, the lengths are not the same if they're parallel. Take a look at this. I just drew 2 parallel lines. Do those lines have the same length? No. The answer said side, side, side. So we obviously had some issues in our answers, okay? So 15, you know what? Sometimes we change worksheets and we forget to change the answer slide when we change the worksheets. We needed to add more parallel lines to this worksheet because it's going to be on your quiz on Monday, and what we did was we just didn't update the answers. So I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. We updated the worksheet but not the answer slide. It happens. Okay. On number 14, can we assume that there are two angles on A and C? Yes, we can. So we had one, I'm not sure if we got to this one yesterday. We can assume that, and we can assume that. We are allowed to assume that the base angles are congruent. What we can't assume is that the base angles of one are congruent to the base angles of the other. You see what I'm saying? So those are not congruent because we don't know that angle A is congruent to angle D. Cool. Today we're going to learn one more congruence postulate. How many did we have yesterday? How many pieces of evidence did we come up with to prove two triangles guilty of being congruent? Yeah, 4. 4 of them. So today we're going to add one. But the reason that we are putting this on a separate day is because there's a stipulation. This one only works for right triangles. It only works for right triangles. Don't try to use it on another triangle because it's special and it only works on right triangles. Yeah. So let me remind you the parts of a right triangle and what they're called. The hypotenuse is always across from the right angle, and then the other two sides are the legs. Don't get this confused with an isosceles triangle. In a right triangle, the legs are not necessarily congruent, okay? Why didn't they use a different word? I wish I knew. So it's not an isosceles right triangle. The legs are not necessarily congruent. Okay. So one more postulate, and this one only works for right triangles. It's special. Add this to your notes. This is the 5th and final postulate. It's called hypotenuse leg, HL. Hypotenuse leg. If the hypotenuse and leg of one triangle are congruent to the hypotenuse and leg of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. It only works for right triangles. So when you're looking to see if they're congruent by HL, you really have to look for 3 things. Put this checklist on your notes. You've got to have a box. Got to have a right angle marking. You've got to have tick marks on a leg. You've got to have a box, you've got to have a leg, and you've got to have tick marks on the hypotenuse. So you're looking for 3 things. Even though there's only 2 letters, hypotenuse leg, you also have to have a 90-degree angle. If you wouldn't even have a hypotenuse if you didn't have a 90-degree angle. But anyways, so for 2 triangles to be guilty of being congruent by HL, it has to be right, it has to have tick marks on the leg and tick marks on the hypotenuse. Now yesterday, if I would have shown you this picture, you would have been like, oh, those aren't congruent. That one spells the bad word, right? This is side-side angle. So side-side angle doesn't work unless it's a right triangle. And if it is a right triangle, we don't call it SSA, we call it HL. Does that make sense? So the bad word one doesn't work unless it's a right triangle. Then it does work, and we don't call it the bad word, we call it HL, hypotenuse leg. Okay, now we're just going to practice. We're going to put them all together, all 5 of them. Side, 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 angle, angle, side, or HL, or none. Okay, did I give you the first one? Is this HL? Did we start off with our brand new one? Thank you, Chloe. We did not. Look. Hypotenuse leg. Uh-oh. Leg, leg. So these don't match. We don't have hypotenuse leg and hypotenuse leg. We have leg, leg. So these are not possible to prove congruent. So you would write not possible and you would write it in both blanks. They are different. They are not congruent. Next one. Oh, those are congruent by angle, angle, angle. That's not one of them, remember? Angle, angle, angle doesn't work. But I do see a shared side. Shared side. So this is one of the weird ones, and I'm glad this came up in our notes because there are two correct answers to this problem. You could prove them guilty of being congruent by angle, side, angle, or you could use angle, angle, side. So on a quiz, those would both be correct because we've got three angles. We have three angles in one side. So you can call it angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side. Okay? ABC is congruent to triangle A, B, D. Order matters. Yes, you must name it in the right order. All right, next one. Every time you see vertical angles or a shared side, you should add a marking to your picture. I see a shared side, so I'm adding a marking. Not HP, not Hewlett-Packard, not the printer, no. HL, very good. Hypotenuse leg. These are guilty of being congruent by HL. ABC is congruent to ABD. Yesterday, we would have said these are not congruent because it spells the bad word. But today, we know better. They are congruent because they're right triangles. See the shared side? Another HL, two HLs in a row. Very good. It is a right triangle. Remember, there's three things to check. Is it a right triangle? Check. Do I have tick marks on the hypotenuse? Yep, and yep. And do I have tick marks on a leg? Leg, leg. So you got hypotenuse, you got leg, so you're good to go. A, B, C is congruent to C, D, A. On your quiz on Monday, if you put those letters in the wrong order, are you going to get it right? Are you going to get it partially right? No and no. Okay. Just wanted to make sure you knew ordered matters, because I don't know if I've said it enough times. This is a new type of problem. We haven't done one like this before. What additional information do you need to prove the pair congruent by HL? So when you're going to say the additional information, you have to be specific. You can't just say leg. You can't just say hypotenuse. You need to tell me what would need to be true in math language. Okay, good. No, let's talk about number 5. In number 5, the hypotenuse is already congruent. You already get shared side. That's already built into the problem. But what we're missing is the fact that right now, GMO is not a right triangle. So what additional information we would need to know, here's how you would write it, that the measure of angle M is 90, or angle M is a right angle. You could write either of those. The measure of angle M needs to be 90, or angle M needs to be a right angle. Okay, number 6. What would need to be true for number 6? You can't just say hypotenuses must be congruent, although you're right. I want you to be more specific. There you go. Segment AC needs to be congruent to segment FD. If those were congruent, then our hypotenuses would have tick marks, and then they'd be guilty by HL. Do you see how to write your answer? You need to tell me what needs to be congruent, and you need to name it. Oh, get out your whiteboards. We're just doing more examples. That's just what it means. More examples. Those were notes, and now we're on whiteboards, but we're really just doing the same thing. Let's just keep doing it. Okay, we've got shared side, guilty of being congruent by, who's going to type it first? Angle, side. Okay, let's talk about this. Every time, okay, we all agree that there's two angles in one side. We all agree on that. But you need to ask yourself, is that tick mark between my angles or is it not between? Because if it's between my angles, I need to move the S and put it between the A's. But if that tick mark is not between the angles, then I better not put my S in between my letter A's. Okay? Between or not between, that is the question. Now I want to go over something really quick because some people are going to do this on their quiz. On your quiz, some of you are going to write that as your answer. Is that correct or not correct? So it's technically right? Okay, so the thing is that with these postulates, there's a certain way to spell it. So what I would compare this to right here, that's like saying, I gave you a yes or no question on a quiz. And you put that as your answer. I gave you a yes or no question and you put that. Should I mark that correct? You put the right answer, but you spelled it backwards. Should that be right or wrong? See what it's, so putting side angle, that's the right answer, but you spelled it backwards. So make sure you know how to spell these, quote unquote, spell them, okay? Make sure you know the order that someone decided upon a long time ago, and we all just do that same order, okay? It doesn't depend on if they're joking. It's spelled yes, Y-E-S, and this is spelled angle, side, A-A-S. Okay, next problem. Ooh, look at this. We've got arrows and tick marks. Those sides are doing double duty. That's arrows and tick marks. And vertical angles. You're right. There's a lot going on here. So we've got alternate interior angles. We've got alternate interior angles. And we've got vertical angles. Oh my. So this is one of those ones that have two answers. Angle, side, angle is correct. And angle, side is also correct because we really have too many angles. We have more than we need. We have 4 quizzes next week. We have 5 days and we have 4 quizzes. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are all quizzes. Anyways, some of them will have in the directions your 4 options and some of them won't. I can't remember which ones do and which ones don't. Okay, next one. What do we get to add? Tick marks on the shared side. This one, what would we write in the blank? This one is the donkey postulate. It spells the bad word. So are we going to write the bad word in the blank? No, we're going to write not possible in both blanks. There's 2 blanks. It is not possible to prove these guilty of being congruent. Actually, when I drew them, I made it on purpose. I made them not look congruent. The only time this one works is if it's a right triangle. Are those right triangles? No. Moving on. Next one, what do I get to add to, oh yeah, right. What do I get to add to my picture? What am I allowed to add? Can't just add things because you feel like it. I'm allowed, ooh, not tick marks. No, not allowed to add tick marks. Allowed to add arcs. Vertical angles. So these are guilty of being congruent by. It was not a trick question. Good. Please, on your quiz, don't say that they're congruent by AAA. Don't even say that they're congruent by not possible and then put AAA. You just never, ever, ever write AAA because it doesn't even work. So you write NP, you don't write AAA. Do we all understand that you don't put AAA ever anywhere? Okay, Lars said that we can add arcs to our picture, alternate interior angles. We know we are always allowed to add a tick mark on the shared side. So these are guilty of being congruent by angle, angle, side. No, not angle, side, angle. No. Guys, are you watching? It's angle, angle, side. You have to look at one triangle at a time. In this one triangle, is the side between the angles or is it not? Is there a tick mark there? No, there's no tick mark between the angles. So it is angle, angle, side. Oh, this one's too easy. Ready? Go. Side, side, side. Whoa, what's going on here? They're overlapping, so I couldn't just put a tick mark. I had to show that it's the whole side. We've never had this before. We have a shared angle here. Shared angle. We've had shared sides, but we've never had shared angles. These two triangles are sharing this angle. Isn't that so nice of them to share with each other? Yes, Edgeril, we are. Good. Angle, side, angle. Very good. Here's an angle, here's our side, and here's an angle. It spells it right there on the triangle for you. Now, people are tempted to do something like this, to add arcs here, but those are not an angle of one of our big triangles, so that wouldn't help us at all. Those vertical angles are not something that you would mark. Ooh, more overlapping triangles. Now we're getting to the K-level problems, huh? Sometimes it helps people to draw these two triangles separately to separate them. What can I add to my picture to start with? They are sharing a side, aren't they? They are sharing that side. So when I draw the triangle separately, what do we have? Is the side between the angles or not between the angles? Good. The tick mark is not between the arcs, so we're going to call it angle, angle, side. Are y'all getting good at this? The more we do it, the better we're getting? I know, these overlapping triangles are kind of weird. Ooh, what about this one? Shared side, sure, sure. Right now, that one spells a bad word. Right now. But are we allowed to add more things? What, that triangle as a whole, what is that whole triangle? It's isosceles. The whole triangle is isosceles. When a triangle is isosceles, the base angles are congruent and the legs are across from the base angle. So you could answer this a ton of ways. This could be side, 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 or I probably would have done that other marking first, and I probably would have gotten side, angle, side. But if you got side, 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 it's fine. Not angle, side, angle, because we didn't add any other angles to our picture. I wouldn't have done angle, side, angle. I would have gone with side, 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 or side, angle, side. No, it's not NP. It's not possible, because it is possible. Oh, how do you know it's isosceles? We learned that in a triangle, if two angles are congruent, then the sides opposite those angles are also congruent. That was the isosceles triangle theorem. Graham, it is perpendicular, and you're making a good point. But when we're proving these congruent, once you have them guilty, I don't want you to keep on finding more things out. Does that make sense? Yes, we could keep going. Yes, that's a perpendicular bisector. Yes, I could add arcs here, and I could add right angles here, and I could add markings all over my picture. But once you've found enough information to prove them congruent, I want you to stop right there. Because once they're congruent, sure, all the sides match and all the angles match. But I want to know what was the first thing that made them guilty of being congruent. No, Rishi, no. On the quiz, I would have accepted this or this. Either one of those would have been the first way. Okay, go ahead and go. Hypotenuse leg. Is that one good? Side angle side. We're getting easier. We got harder, now we're getting easier. Side angle side. How do we know the angles are congruent? Vertical angles, yeah. Ooh. Alternate interior, angle, side angle. This one is different from the one we just did. Look at this one. Nope, actually it's not different because that is a median. Never mind, it is a median. It's isosceles. And when you draw a median of an isosceles triangle, then it's really all four special segments. But we're going to go with this side angle side. How did I know those angles were congruent? Well, because the legs opposite are congruent. Oh, you want to do side, side, side? Yep, that one would be okay too because the shared side. You're totally right. But don't add anything else. That would be it. Is this one hypotenuse leg? Hypotenuse leg. Yep. Oh my goodness. So on this one, we're looking at the green triangle versus the blue triangle. Green versus blue. Do they have a shared anything? Do they have a shared anything? No, they're sharing part of the base, but not the whole base. Yes, some of the base. What about that whole thing being isosceles? If that whole triangle is isosceles, well then the angle across from this is going to have an arc, and the angle across from this is going to have an arc. Y'all are totally right. I just wanted you to think about it. So if these two are the same, and the part that's not the same, if they're overlapping, it's called the common segment theorem, but you don't need to know that. But because of that, you can say that the bases are the same. This isn't really the base, but we're talking about that side of the triangle that's at the bottom. Good. Very good. Y'all are good. Oh, y'all are too good. So what are we saying? Side, angle, side? Side, angle, side, because those bases are congruent because they're overlapping and the part that's not overlapping matches. Good. I think we've done enough for today. I think we've already done that one. Oh my goodness, I had a lot of examples. Oh my goodness gracious. I think that's enough. Y'all have a wonderful weekend.